Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're all doing really well. Today I want to talk about quite possibly the most important piece of gear I've ever owned, the humble Zoom GFX 707. So when I got into playing music seriously when I was 13 or 14, I got given a couple of really cool pieces of gear. One was a Hondo copy of an Erlewine laser. If you've ever seen Johnny Winter playing a headless travel guitar, that was the Erlewine laser. It kind of looks like a Steinberger or something. I had a copy of that guitar, and I had this, the 707. I also had a set of headphones and a little later Marshall Lead 12 mini stack. But for a long time, it was this with headphones and the laser, and I just sat in my room and I just made guitar noises for hours and hours, and it kind of really set the tone for what was to come for me, you know, tweaking sounds and going down that tone rabbit hole. And there were a couple of sounds on here that just really inspired me. So I want to revisit it, running it direct with one of my guitars. Let's get straight into it. Okay, to truly replicate the experience I had with this unit as a beginner guitar player, I'm going to run it direct because I spent a lot of time playing with this thing on headphones. One little setup thing you should do is hit edit, and then you can navigate through these settings. I think it comes up with patch level as default. You go to Durlod, and then with the parameter 3 knob, you want to set that to line level. So that's where I've got it set at the moment. Okay, I've got this Room 335 preset dialed up at the moment, and it sounds like this. Which is certainly not the worst guitar tone I've ever had in my life. I believe parameter 3 is for the reverb, so I can turn that down just a touch. This parameter here is like some kind of distortion. It's gain. If I turn the gain up, it must sound better, right? And what on earth does this do? This is a pitch style effect. I can live without that. I'll set it back in the middle, which just says DT, which might be like a pitch detune. All right, there's an amp sim control here. With it off, it sounds like this, which sounds pretty garbage. And then we can go through, we can start with combo A. I think it's like combo, bright, stack, and full stack with a variation on each. So there's like 8 amp models. And I think there's cab models baked into there. I think. I'm not too sure about that. All right, full stack A sounded the best to me, so I'm going to stick with that. Now, if you actually want to get in and edit some tones on this, you can hit the edit button, and I never knew how this worked. I just used to use presets. There's 1 or 2 presets which sound really, really cool on here, which I'll demo at the end, but let's hit edit, and now I can use the module control to go through the different effects modules. Let's start with the type of distortion I've got. At the moment, it's set on this power drive. And then we've got controls, we've got gain, we've got a tone control for it, and an overall level control. I think the level's set at 5, that was fine. We can use these buttons here to audition different types of drive. There's an acoustic sim, there are a couple of different compressors, there's compression and, I'm guessing, crunch and overdrive, compression and distortion, compression and fuzz, OD1, OD2, distortion 1, distortion 2, fuzz, wild fuzz, lead, metal, and power drive. So let's just hear one of these compressor settings. Well, that's not too bad. We can have different colors of compression with this knob. Let's try, it's FL, FT, BT. BT's not too bad. Let's roll with that one. And then I can turn the amount of compression up to make it a bit squishier. Let's try something with a bit of drive. There is compression and crunch. That's compressor and OD. That's not too bad. This controls the gain now, and then we've got the compression amount and the level. I'll leave the level where it is. Probably go for less compression. Let's hear what the gain can do. Well, I lied. I'm going to turn the compression up. I think that sounds like the only thing that can save me now. So that's compression and crunch. Let's hear compression and distortion. That fuzz isn't too bad for a digital fuzz. This is OD1. I think I like OD1 the most out of all of those, wherever it's set. So let's go to another module. We've got the noise reduction, and then we've got EQ. So we've got presence. I think this is treble and mid at the moment. And then if we scroll over here, we've got low frequency, low, and the overall level. So let's just see what the presence... So the presence control just sounds like a fizz parameter, basically. So I'll turn that one down. I've turned the high and the mid-range up. Let's see what the low control does. That'll do. Let's go over and change this modulation sound, because this pitch detune makes it sound really, really corny. We've got a couple of really wild sounding effects, like a ring modulator. And then there's a slow gear emulation, which I find really, really surprising. This sounds pretty good from memory. You know, that's not the worst slow gear emulation I've ever heard either. There's this filter effect, which is kind of like an auto wah with the slow gear. Like, it's that type of sound that I always associate with these multi-effects units from this era. These kind of sounds that, like, on their own, you're like, whoa, it sounds amazing, and you would never use it in a track. But maybe you would, because that's a kind of character tone. All right, there's delay. Cool, we got to some just trad effects. That delay sounds all right. There's echo. Actually, that echo sounds even better. And then some of the really trippy effects. This one's called T-Trip. It's like 50 sci-fi soundtrack noises. Again, that's a really cool character sound that I haven't really heard anything else like that out of any other units. That's really cool. There's this trem chorus. This one's called Rinvib, which I guess is ring modulator and univibe. That's pretty wild. There's a univibe in there. Again, not terrible. So that's a Univibe. We've got a traditional chorus style effect. And then there is this vintage chorus. I like the sound of that one better than the other chorus. There's a flanger. Again, that sounds pretty usable. There's a phaser. There's a trem. The trem sounds okay. There's an auto panner, which just sounds like a square wave trem because I'm running in mono. I guess with headphones, maybe you could hear that. There's an auto wah. There's this P-wah. Guessing maybe that's a pedal wah. And this is the effect that I have never really heard on anything else. This is just a step filter kind of thing. This is so unique. And when I was 14 years old, I reckon this is the effect that I heard that I probably played guitar for like 4 or 5 hours just with this one sound. And this was probably really instrumental in me like getting into the guitar and getting into guitar sounds because it blew my mind when I was that age. I remember playing that progression like that, just ba 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 ba, for hours and hours. That's really, really funny. That takes me down memory lane. Okay, I'm gonna leave the echo effect on there because I did not mind that. I'll turn the feedback down. The time I'll set somewhere in here, and I'll just turn the mix down a bit. Sounds like this. And then we can tweak the reverb. There's a hall reverb, a room reverb, look at this. This is glitching out. These knobs must be stuck or something like that, or dirty. There's delay hall. All right, you can get a kind of usable guitar sound out of that. There's a little bit of reverb and delay and, a bit of compression and distortion on there. Let's go back to the fuzz sound, though, because that's the thing that definitely surprised me the most. So if I go through here, it was fuzz. Keep in mind, this is straight up direct, no post-processing. Let's try the wild fuzz. And let's put a Univibe on that. So I'll just kind of scroll across and we'll get the vibe. When you hear that Univibe and that fuzz together, it is pretty cheesy, unfortunately. So that's how you can tweak this thing. There was a built-in drum machine, and I think a little phrase sampler here as well, with a bunch of different rhythms. And again, that was a really, 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 really important thing for me, because I remember being 15 or 16 and I watched Paul Gilbert's Intense Rock, and it's like, okay, I want to be able to do this. I need to practice with a metronome, and let me just not blow your ears off. So I'll put a rhythm patch on. And there's a metronome in there, and that was so important for me, as like a developing young musician. So I used to put this metronome on. Yeah, and you've got beat per minute control and a level control there. And I can still remember putting headphones on like every day. Yeah, I would have been 15 or 16, and practicing that lick, that Paul Gilbert thing, with this type of sound. So yeah, this is not going to absolutely blow your mind with the quality of the DI amp sim tones or anything like that, but there are a couple of really cool and unique effects. Like the flanger and the phaser didn't sound bad, the delay sounds fine, the echo sounds fine, the trem vibe is a cool combo, the step filter is awesome, the slow gear is really good. Let's just hear some presets from this thing. Oh, that sounds pretty rough. What have we got here? There's this talk box. That's kind of cool. There's this sound called wind. That's kind of really cool and lo-fi, and that's immediately made me want to write a little riff like that. There's a reverse delay sound. This is a wild one. This one's just called Trill. I better turn the volume down on this one. And here's the preset called Step. F5, my old friend. It's good to see you again. There's a couple of other just patches in here. I'm trying to remember. There's a 12-string emulation. Who knows what this sounds like? Speaks for itself. There's this trem sound, which this was another one I used to like. All right. Let's see. There was another one in here. This will probably be the last one I bring up. I'm just trying to remember. Cutter. What does cutter sound like? Flanger. There's this old vibrato. This is the one I was looking for. This is a really cool sound. I quite like this one. If you kind of do an old vintagey, you want to do that Hammond thing. So yeah, the old 707. I don't think I could actually ever recommend anybody buy this for more than like $50 or something like that. But if you can find one for about that used price, there's a couple of really unique effects in there and a couple of really cool sounds. Like it might just be worth having one of these sitting around for that slow gear sound and that step filter sound, just because. And, if you're recording or if you're, just kind of mucking around and you want some inspiring sounds, there's far worse pieces of gear. There's certainly far better pieces of gear out there. But yeah, this is, like I said, it is what it is. It's an old piece of gear. It's kind of plastic. It's not very well built, but it has held up, and it is probably easily the most important piece of gear I ever got, because without this thing, I wouldn't have kept playing guitar. There were so many sounds that for me as a novice guitar player inspired me and made me play and made me explore the instrument that, I'll always hang on to this little piece of history for me. Probably, you guys if you listen to the whole demo, I apologize because some of those sounds were, not the best sounds you've ever heard. It's not going to blow you away, but for me, this is a piece of gear that's very important to me. And it's nice to revisit it and just kind of hear some of those sounds. And some of those sounds are usable. You could definitely get away with using some of these effects on your board. So anyway, there is my old friend, the Zoom GFX 707 guitar effects processor. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments, and I will see you very soon. Thanks for watching.